of the most common questions I get asked is what would happen if a Sharingan wielder had a baby with a Byakugan wielder? Because for some reason, people treat me like Google. This question has been answered by Kishimoto. Now, it's not like Kishimoto came to your house, kicked down your front door, and shook the answer into your brain, but if you Googled what would happen if an Uchiha had a child with a Hyuga, you would get the answer to that question. So is this video about me pleading with you to stop asking me this incredibly easy and already answered question? No, not really, because like I said, the answer isn't exactly plastered across the New York Times. It's just in the third data book, Kishimoto says that if a Hyuga and an Uchiha had a child, the child would be born with one Byakugan and one Sharingan. Crazy thought, right? I mean, however, could we ever have possibly come to that conclusion? And while it would be a lot cooler if somehow the Sharingan and the Byakugan blend into each other to create the Byakugan, it's kind of hard to combine the two words because they end the same way. The Byakushar. Trust me, that's better than Shar Byak. Unfortunately, the reality of the situation is the one question that Kishimoto decided to answer is what would happen in this specific scenario, so we know the answer. Cool. Video done? Well, no. See, here's the thing. While in Naruto, the possibility of an Uchiha having a child with the Hyuga didn't really seem like it was on the horizon, which is weird on account of them living in the same village for almost 100 years. But you gotta keep the bloodline pure. But now that Boruto and Sakura have been made out to be somewhat possible love interests, there is a real-life, rather high possibility that the end of Boruto will bring an Uchiha together with a Hyuga. And while that would technically be an Uchiha coming together with an Uzumaki, something that the entire fandom has wanted for 2 decades now, if Boruto and Sarada were to end up together, there is a real possibility that their child would be born with both a Sharingan and a Byakugan in an event that somehow hasn't happened in the last 100 years of these two clans sharing a town. Like really, how has an Uchiha not been like reaching for an apple at a market and a Hyuga also happens to reach their hand for the same apple and they touch and then they both make eye contact and accidentally activate their dojutsu and then they're like, oh my god, love at first you accidentally placed me in Tsukiyomi. What's even crazier is they all go to the same school and they all fight in the same wars. Like, I get that the Hyuga clan all exist in one compound and there's the side family and the main family, and I get that the Uchiha are kind of basically doing the same thing, but Mukai Koinada has shown us that people have left the Hyuga clan. I just don't get how in 100 years the two most populous clans in the entire city never interbred. Or maybe they did and we just never got introduced to any of their offspring. Or maybe they're like lions and tigers where we can force them to mate, but a lot of the times their children don't work out so well. I know what you're saying. Oh, Nick, ligers are sick. No, they're not. They're incredibly hard to make, and even when they're born, they have a ton of health issues. But enough about ligers, because today we're talking about Boruto's liger. That is to say, the possible offspring of both Boruto and Sarada, who will possess one Byakugan and one Sharingan. But today, I don't want to talk about the possibility of this possible child having both of these dojutsu, because really, no matter how you split it, based off what Kishimoto told us, this child would have both dojutsu. No, today, I want to talk about what that would look like. No, because today, I want to talk about whether having one Sharingan and one Byakugan would either be an incredible blessing or an incurable hindrance. And moreover, I want to talk about the possible abilities that the first ever wielder of one Sharingan and one Byakugan might awaken that we've never seen prior. But before we get into any of that, guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. And if you like the idea of me talking about your favorite anime characters making babies, guys, go ahead and follow my other channel, The Weeb Commander, where instead of talking about Naruto and Boruto, I talk all other anime. And I do talk about Gojo and Geto making babies more often than I'm willing to admit. And if you want to see me make content with somebody who people hypothesize I make babies with, go ahead and follow my anime podcast, Otaku's Anonymous, where me and Daddy Mata break down everything that happened in anime this week. It's available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And yes, there are fanfics. And if you want to look like somebody who everybody's going to want to make babies with, go ahead and meander into my brand new anime merch store, otakusanonymous.net, where you can pick up some of the greatest anime t-shirts, sticker packs, and sweatshirts known to man. But before we get into all that, guys, today we're going to talk about our favorite recurring sponsor to the page, Factor. Factor wants to help you skip the stress of meal prep this holiday season, as Factor allows you to choose from 35 fresh, healthy, and delicious, never frozen meals every single week, all delivered directly to your door and ready to eat in 2 minutes. See, Factor understands that the holiday season is a bit tough on your body goals, and thus Factor is happy to offer a myriad of calorie-conscious options, with delicious dietitian-approved calorie-smart meals that all clock in at 550 calories or less. See, Factor is a lifesaver to me, because I put out a lot of content, so I don't have time to spend an hour cooking up lunch, which is why I keep my fridge stocked with Factor, so I can head downstairs, open a meal, microwave it for 2 minutes, and be set ready, and fueled correctly. But there's a big difference between telling and showing. So let's head down to the kitchen and show you just how easy and delicious Factor truly is.
Today we're cooking up roasted veggie and pesto tortellini. I love a healthy and hearty Italian meal.
And look at how easy this is. All I have to do is remove that film, poke a couple of holes in this foil here, toss in the microwave, hit 2, and I'll see you in 120 seconds. And look at how good that looks. But let's see how good it tastes.
The pesto flavoring is perfect, and the pasta is somehow still perfectly al dente.
So what are you guys waiting for? Head to factor75.com or use the link below and enter code NCHammer2350 for 50% off your first order today. That's factor75.com or use the link in my description and enter code NCHammer2350 for 50% off your first Factor box. Let's save time and save taste. So, Boruto and Sarada's child, Boruto. That's Boruto with a V, as N and B are next to each other on a keyboard, and if you go one further down, it's a V. The truly promised child. See, if Boruto was actually created through Boruto and Sarada having a child, that child would have Uzumaki, basically Senju, Uchiha, and Hyuga blood, meaning that child would have blood from the 3 major clans that split off from Hagoromo and Hamura. Therefore, for all intents and purposes, there's no reason for us to believe that Boruto would be anything than basically an Otsutsuki reincarnated. And that's been the reason that a lot of people have pushed for Boruto and Sarada eventually having a child down the line. And for all intents and purposes, it appears as though that's the direction that Boruto's story is heading. I mean, there's no romantic subplot currently developing, but Sarada is one of the only people on Earth who's able to remember that Boruto's a good guy, alongside, ironically, her romantic rival, Sumire. So as it currently stands, the Boruto fandom is kind of split like the Twilight fandom in the early 2010s. There's 2 teams, and I'm not going to say either are perfect, but as I'm sitting here now and talking to you, I gotta say, I see Boruto ending up with Sarada as a more realistic possibility. Listen, Kishimoto is aware how many people wanted Naruto and Sasuke to kiss, and there's a reason he decided that they would have children of opposite gender. But Nick, are you sitting here and saying that Boruto and Sarada's child Boruto will have another spin-off series about it? Naruto Shippuden? Oh wait, no, Boruto's a 2-part manga too. Naruto Shippuden. No, I'm not saying that at all. There is absolutely no way that Boruto gets their own manga. It doesn't matter how cool Boruto seems or how pressed Kishimoto gets, there is absolutely no way he is making another Naruto manga after Boruto. And that's not because Boruto was ill-received. It's not. It's the 5th most popular manga on Earth. That's because Kishimoto didn't even want to make Boruto. Kishimoto got forced into changing the end of Naruto to make it sure the universe could flesh out to bigger bad so Boruto could exist. But then Kishimoto decided, I don't really want anything to do with the Naruto universe, so he gave it to his key editor, and he went to go make Samurai No. 8, which only ran for 10 chapters and then was dropped. And it was only after his other manga was dropped and he realized that the person that he put in charge of Boruto was absolutely bungling it, that Kishimoto retook the reins. Not to mention Boruto was monthly when Naruto was weekly. So now, not only is he already slowing down, but also he doesn't even really want to be here to begin with. If Samurai 8 had done well, Kishimoto never would have came back to Boruto. But I do believe that Boruto and Sarada will be shown having a child, just like how Naruto and Hinata were shown having a child in their own anime. In fact, I believe that Boruto will end very similarly to how Naruto ended. That is, that Sarada will become the 9th Hokage, and that on the day of her inauguration, Boruto and their children will be trying to get her to the Hokage's hall. And then through some mishap, their child, Boruto, will end up knocking out one of them like how Himawari knocked out Naruto. Why do I think this is going to happen? Because everything in the Naruto universe is incredibly cyclic and there is always callbacks. And thus, while I don't believe that Boruto is going to get their own spin-off manga, I do believe there will be a time in the Boruto manga and anime we will see Boruto. And these children will be the first children to ever have mixed Hyuga and Uchiha blood. Now, there is an argument to be made that both Boruto and Sarada's Uchiha and Hyuga blood, respectively, is too watered down for their children to manifest their dojutsu. And this is definitely a possible argument, especially in the case of Boruto, who technically doesn't even have a Byakugan. However, we know from Mukai Kohinata, who pops up in Itachi's first light novel, that families who separate from the Hyuga clan for generations still produce heirs that are able to manifest the Byakugan, though the manifestation slows down in that it only appears in one eye. Now, Mukai Kohinata is how we know this because Mukai Kohinata's family split off from the Hyuga clan several generations ago, and he only has a Byakugan in one eye. But that's not necessarily a problem in the case of Boruto because he only needs a Byakugan in one eye. And while Boruto himself doesn't have a Byakugan, his sister has two. And the real reason that Boruto doesn't have a Byakugan is because he has a Jogan. Though I really see no reason for him not to have a Byakugan in his other eye. Now, we unfortunately technically have no template for the Uchiha, as we've never known an Uchiha who bred outside of the Uchiha clan for a multitude of generations. However, considering the fact that Sarada not only awoke the Sharingan, but also the MS, I would say that Uchiha blood is a bit like Viltrumite blood. That is to say that it's so pure, even when you breed outside of your clan, you're basically pure-blooded. And thus, I really have no hesitancy in saying that any child that Sarada would have would also stand a fair chance at awakening a Sharingan, if not two if their other eye wasn't a Byakugan. And thus, Boruto's got a great chance at being the first person with mixed dojutsu. But what would mixed dojutsu do? Would you simply have the abilities of a Byakugan in one eye and the abilities of a Sharingan in the other? I mean, that's a realistic chance, but it's also kind of boring. Like, sure, the prospect of somebody who's able to see all Tenketsu points in one eye and train in Gentle Fist and then use Genjutsu and the extrasensory perception abilities and MS abilities of the Sharingan in the other eye is intimidating. It's unfortunately too realistic and boring of an answer for this channel. On top of that, would you want that? And I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about Boruto. See, let's say hypothetically Boruto is born with one Byakugan and one Sharingan, and Boruto has all of the abilities of one Byakugan and one Sharingan. Mukai Kohinata has shown us that one Byakugan isn't really that much of a hindrance. In fact, two Byakugan is kind of just redundant, as through the power of just one Byakugan, Mukai Kohinata was able to see and track chakra from a massive distance away, use Gentle Fist, see Tenketsu points, and also have a Genjutsu resistance. And thus, really, the only reason that one would ever need two Byakugan is in case you lost the other one. However, the real problem arises when you get to the Sharingan. Because, sure, absolutely, people with one Sharingan have been incredibly powerful throughout the history of Naruto. Kakashi and Obito are testaments to that fact, as both of them, through the powers of their respected Kamui, were able to become high-level threats. And sure, if you slap the Byakugan into Kakashi or Obito's other eyes, they would be even stronger, though neither of them would be able to deactivate said Byakugan, so there'd be a big chakra suck. However, there's another way to make Obito and Kakashi even stronger, and that's the way that they were made even stronger in Naruto, and that is simply by giving them their other Sharingan. Both Kakashi and Obito at one point are DMS wielders of the Kamui, and both Obito and Kakashi get stronger after becoming DMS wielders of the Kamui. Well, obviously DMS Obito is not Obito's strongest form because he had already done two things that should have killed him. DMS Kakashi is absolutely his strongest form. And I would say the level at which both Obito and Kakashi got stronger from getting their second Sharingan massively outweighs the usefulness of one Byakugan. Because here's the thing, let's say hypothetically one of your parents is a 6'7" professional bodybuilder, and you get those height and muscle genes from your father. And let's say your mother has really nice eyes. They're perfectly baby blue and everybody's in love with them. That's why your father chose your mother in the first place. And you get those super nice baby blue eyes from your mother as well. Congratulations, you're incredibly attractive. But let's say now a bunch of people are angry that you've been sleeping with their significant others. Your genes that you got from your father are going to get you a whole lot further than those baby blues you got from your mother. And because all you got from your mother was some baby blues, you lose that fight. Now, if somehow your father managed to breed with somebody of equal height and strength, you probably wouldn't have lost that battle because you'd be bigger and stronger. That's kind of the exact situation with the Sharingan and the Byakugan. Sure, while adding a Byakugan to anybody is going to make them stronger, that's only in circumstances while the alternative to the eye that Byakugan is currently occupying is just an eye. Because if the alternative is another Sharingan, that's way stronger. See, obviously with one Sharingan, you can still awaken MS and you can have incredibly broken abilities like Kamui. However, if you only have one Sharingan, you'll only ever have one MS ability. And that one MS ability could be something like Amaterasu or, heaven forbid, Kagutsuchi. And considering the fact that MS abilities seem to be somewhat genetic, and Sarada is the child of Sasuke, who has Kagutsuchi and Amaterasu, and we don't know Sarada's MS abilities yet, there's a fair amount of possibility that Sarada could pass down something like Amaterasu or Kagutsuchi. And if you just have Kagutsuchi, which is the ability to control the shape of Amaterasu, that MS ability is completely useless. On top of only ever having one MS ability, you'll also never awaken a Susanoo, as you need to awaken a dual MS to ever get a Susanoo. So cool, you got an eye that can see a couple miles away, and boy oh boy can you poke people in the wrong spots. But wouldn't it be sick if you were the size of a mountain and could fly? And that's what you're missing out on to have a Byakugan? Listen, for a long time, the Hyuga clan was touted as the strongest clan in Konoha, and in the early days of Naruto, the Byakugan appeared to be as equally useful as the Sharingan. However, it was quickly revealed that the Sharingan had a myriad of different ways to evolve that made it much stronger than the Byakugan. And on top of that, the Sharingan does basically everything the Byakugan already does. As the Sharingan, outside of its ability to cast Genjutsu, give you MS abilities, give you extrasensory perception, also has the ability to track chakra. And not just track chakra, but also track chakra from a distance and through objects. And while its ability to track chakra is not as good as the Byakugan, it's good enough. Especially when the other eye you get gives you the ability to turn into an 80-foot tall monster that can cut mountains in half. But would there be any advantages to having both a Sharingan and a Byakugan? Well, maybe, and this is where we get into the hypothetical part of this video. See, the biggest thing that the Byakugan has over the Sharingan is range. Neji at the height of his power is able to see almost a kilometer in all directions, which is absolutely bonkers. And Hinata at the top of her power is able to see further than that and over a dozen kilometers in one direction, which means if Hinata happens to know where you are, or happens to find where you are, she can follow you from over 10 kilometers away, which is an incredible tactical advantage for both reconnaissance and possible assassination work. So if you had both a Byakugan and a Sharingan, could you begin to combine their abilities without actually merging the eyeballs? That is to say, let's say hypothetically, you're able to identify somebody's chakra signature from a kilometer away using your Byakugan. Could you then, at that point, after identifying that chakra signature, begin to use your Sharingan from this range? Well, that would really be the biggest advantage of having both of these eyes. Because hypothetically, if you were able to identify somebody's chakra network, there is a possibility that you could then launch a Genjutsu attack on them from a formidable distance away, possibly further than anybody outside of Infinite Tsukiyomi has ever launched Genjutsu from. And this actually kind of makes sense. See, the way that Genjutsu in the Naruto universe works is that you have to take control of somebody else's chakra network. And this is why Genjutsu masters have to have the highest level of chakra precision, or chakra control. Because the only way that you can cast somebody under Genjutsu is if your control of chakra is higher than theirs, as you have to play with their chakra network to get their 5 senses to show them things that aren't actually there. And thus, if hypothetically you were not only able to control somebody's chakra network, but see it in an incredibly detailed fashion through the usage of your Byakugan, there's a possibility that it would give you more leverage in controlling them and casting them into Genjutsu, as you not only be able to feel their chakra network as you try to wrangle control of it, but also see it. See the chakra as it pumps out of their skulls, see what parts of the body pump more chakra than others, and in real time see the physical changes that you're inflicting by controlling somebody else's chakra, which can act as an active way of showing you how to keep control of said chakra network. And if the usage of the Byakugan allowed for greater control over a chakra network, while also allowing for that control from kilometers away, this would mean that Boruto would be quite literally the deadliest Genjutsu user of all time. It would mean that so long as you were within 10 kilometers of Boruto, they would be able to cast you into Genjutsu, which means that their abilities are kind of like a walking miniaturized version of Infinite Tsukiyomi. On top of this, having both a Sharingan and a Byakugan would make Boruto quite possibly the deadliest copy ninja of all time. See, the reason that the Sharingan is able to copy jutsus in the Naruto universe is because the Sharingan is able to track and copy hand signs. Now, the reason that tracking and copying hand signs is important is because in order to create ninjutsu in the Naruto universe, you mold your chakra through the usage of hand signs, as every individual hand sign you do directs your chakra in a specific way. Now, less experienced ninjas have to use more hand signs, as they have to direct their chakra exactly to pull off a specific jutsu. This is why Zabuza has to use 44 hand signs to pull off Water Dragon Bullet. But more experienced and more powerful ninja only have to use one hand sign, which is why Tobirama only needs one hand sign to pull off Water Dragon Bullet. However, if you were using a Sharingan to watch somebody like Zabuza try to use Water Dragon Bullet, you too would be able to pull off Water Dragon Bullet, because Zabuza is using all 44 necessary hand signs. However, if you were watching somebody like Tobirama use Water Dragon Bullet, you may not be able to copy it, because Tobirama is only using one hand sign. And thus the majority of the work to mold the chakra to pull off Water Dragon Bullet is actually happening inside Tobirama's head, or inside his chakra network. And thus simply copying the hand signs wouldn't be enough, because not only does Tobirama only need one hand sign, He only needs to do it with one hand, which, mind you, is massively more difficult than weaving hand signs with two hands. However, what if hypothetically you didn't have to focus on the hand signs? What if you could watch somebody's chakra network as they molded chakra from different parts of their body to pull off ninjutsu and copy that exactly? Well, that's hypothetically what somebody with a Byakugan and a Sharingan would be able to pull off. Therefore, instead of focusing on the outside factors, they could focus on the inside factors and perfectly master any jutsu they see used at, mind you, basically any distance. On top of this, there's also a possibility that somebody like Boruto would be able to copy Kekkei Genkai, because while Kekkei Genkai are sometimes bloodline specific, by perfectly recreating how the chakra is molded to pull off something like ice release, there is a possibility that somebody like Boruto would be able to recreate that ice release by watching Haku use it. And considering the fact that we've now seen people like Sasuke use ice release because he has yin yang release, this is definitely not out of the realm of possibility. On top of this, when you combine the Sharingan's extrasensory perception with the Byakugan's 360-degree view ability, you would have somebody who's all but impossible to hit, as the Sharingan allows Boruto in this circumstance to anticipate what attack is coming, and the Byakugan allows them to see all of those attacks in 360 degrees. Now, I'm not entirely sure if this would work because the Sharingan's future sight ability does hinder on the fact that it allows you to see exactly how somebody is moving. That is to say that the Sharingan allows you to see how somebody's muscles are flexing or their body is contorting, so you can make a guess as to how their body is about to move and dodge. But considering the fact that the Byakugan would be seeing in 360 degrees but not the Sharingan, it's hard to say as to whether or not the Sharingan would be able to apply its extrasensory perception or its future sight to all 360 degrees. But considering the fact that our eyes do see individual separate images, that our brain then does the extra work of combining to give us one cohesive image, there is a fair amount of possibility that the Sharingan and the Byakugan's vision would kind of combine, and thus you would get a Sharingan's view in 360 degrees. And lastly, and it's last because this last one is the most outlandish, there is a possibility that somebody like Boruto would have a Ketsurigan-like ability. That is to say that there's a possibility that somebody like Boruto would have the ability to place people under genjutsu by coming into contact with them. What do I mean? Well, fundamentally, genjutsu and gentle fists work very similarly. Gentle fist is the practice of stabbing people's tenketsu points, which are integral chakra points in the chakra network. And by stabbing these chakra points, a Hyuga can either stop chakra from flowing through that point or amplify how much chakra flows through that point. In essence, gentle fist is about disrupting your chakra network. Genjutsu is also about disrupting your chakra network. So there's a possibility that somebody like Boruto would have a third option when it came to gentle fist. And that is that instead of stopping chakra flow or amplifying chakra flow, they could change chakra flow. And with every tenketsu point that they hit, they would be able to place somebody in a deeper and deeper genjutsu, as by forcing their chakra into the chakra network of the person that they're using gentle fist on, they would be able to slowly but surely control their chakra network, thus casting that person into a genjutsu. And while I don't think that's an impossible ability of the Sharingan and Byakugan coming together, I definitely think it's the least likely. But what do you guys think? If Sarada and Boruto had a child that was born with one Sharingan and one Byakugan, what abilities do you think it would have? Tell me in the comments below. And while you guys are down there, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. Listen, I'm aware Boruto is a terrible name, but that's what's next on the keyboard.